Welcome to the program. There is the People's Bench, where we bring it the way it is without mincing words. I'm your host Fred Ogweno, and we are coming to you from Muthu Silver Springs Hotel here in Nairobi. A very nice place where you can just come and enjoy world-class services. And for much more, you can scan the QR code right on your screen. Tonight, we are talking matters 2027 politics, the road to 2027 with David Maraga, the former Chief Justice. Is it Maraga's moment? And to discuss this, I'm privileged to have the United Green Movement party leader. His party is the one that Maraga is going to use, and now Maraga is equally a party leader. Is it Maraga's moment? Are the Gen Z still solidly behind David Kenani Maraga? That is why we are here to bisect this with Mr. Agostinho Neto. He is a former MP from the constituency, and he says it the way it is. That is his main problem. How are you, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much, Fred. I'm fine. Thanks for having me at the People's Bench. It's a pleasure and an honor on behalf of the United Green Movement Party that I co-lead, and also on behalf of President Maraga's campaign. We're eternally very grateful. Thanks for hosting us. Thanks for having us. And we follow your show, and I think it's popular with Kenyans both in country and abroad. And I really think that the space for mediums such as this, where people can come and speak as it is an important thing for a budding democracy such as Kenya. Fundamental freedoms, freedom of expressions unstifled is what make democracies grow. And so I think your channel is pretty important, and you should just keep up the good work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. That is very humbling. That is very humbling to hear from you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And now, tell me, Kenyans who are lovers of David Kenani Maraga, the former Chief Justice, you are the national coordinator for his campaigns. Do you really believe that Maraga is going to be the president of Kenya come 2027?
Kenya can only have one president in 2027, and that's going to be David Kenani Maraga. Most people, of course, have been wondering, when the President Maraga declared his interest to run for office in, early January, February, most people were really not sure that he was going to gain ground. But I'm sure over the past few months, over the past few 6-7 months, I'm sure you're seeing the campaign is rising steady. Most people are wondering why President Maraga is running for office. And why do we think, those of us in his campaign team and those of us who support his presidency, why do we think that we're going to have a President Maraga? Fred, you must appreciate that elections are about issues. Every year in election, even in your village, elections are about issues. Elections always, have a level of polarity where it is us versus them. And, if you follow the Kenyan election, I want to take you down a memory lane quite a bit. In 2002, most Kenyans came to the election, and, you remember they were saying, yote yawezekana bila Moi. So in 2002, the Kenyan election was anything but Moi. Kenyans did not want anything that had anything to do with Moi. You remember in that particular election, there were two candidates. There was Uhuru Kenyatta was Kikuyu, and there was also Mwai Kibaki was Kikuyu. So in 2002, the campaign was nothing to do with whatever tribe. It was just Moi was a bad thing. And that is how come, when people thought Uhuru Kenyatta was associated with Moi, they voted in Kibaki. Of course, Kibaki was a stellar performer and was a better presidential candidate. But that's just to manifest to you that elections are about issues. 2007, 2008, 2007, the campaign issue was, Kenyans and the politicians at that point conjured a few things against the Kikuyu. So that the 2007 election was more of 42 tribes versus one tribe. And we saw what that did for country. It put Kenya on a precipice, having a polarized election in that manner. Of course, it worked in terms of giving Raila the vote, but it was a polarizing election in the manner it was conducted because then it was a tribal election versus one tribe. So in 2013, you remember the issue at the ballot in my undertaking was the sovereignty of the Kenyan nation, where Kenyans came up in solidarity with Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, even though they were inductees of the ICC. Kenyans came to defend their sovereignty as a nation. Kenyans said, look, we don't want our nationals tried abroad in some beberu court, and that is the reason why most Kenyans came out in their large numbers to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto as then was. Of course, 2017 was an easy election for them because they were incumbents, but despite the fact that David Kenani Maraga actually nullified that election for want of being conducted under the rule of law. Of course, Raila, chickened out of that particular re-election. But it will have been a chance to, for example, test the democratic systems and the democratic institutions of Kenya in the manner that it was. So fast forward, 2022, William Ruto and his people did a good campaign. A good campaign in terms of they brought an issue to the table. The campaign issue in 2022, in our understanding, as the Maraga campaign was hustlers versus dynasties. It was the children of less privileged versus the children of those who are wealthy. Of course, now even the children of less privileged now are ganging up with the children of less wealthy. So it's a whole conundrum. All these politicians are wild animals to an extent. So my understanding and understanding in the Maraga campaign is that the campaign issue in 2027 and why we are committed and convinced that Maraga is going to be president is because 2027, in our view, is a constitutional moment. It is a moment for Kenya to reboot to constitutionalism and rule of law. It is for something called Ukatiba. Kenyans want the country to work for them. Kenyans want the country to function for them. You said something whether the Gen Zs are pro-Maraga or not. No, the Gen Zs are pro-systems that work. The Gen Zs just want the country to work. I followed very closely the demonstrations that was June 2024. They didn't want nothing. They did not want power. They did not want anything else. They just wanted a country that works. Can Kenya work? Yes, Kenya can work. How does Kenya work? Kenya works if at all you follow and implement the constitution as is. And we've asked Kenyans, who in your view amongst all these candidates who are running in 2027 is going to be better to implement the constitution than Maraga? And I think the answer is there's no. And if then it is true that it's only President Maraga that can implement the constitution to its fullest, that is the reason why we're convinced that because 2027 is a constitutional moment, Kenyans are looking for a leader who can implement the constitution. 2027 is about Ukatiba, it's about constitutionalism. Maraga is trying to create a Mkatiba movement, a group of Kenyans who believe in the rule of law, a group of Kenyans who believe in a country that functions, a group of Kenyans who believe that the constitution, if implemented, Fred, most Kenyans don't understand. Each time you come to the show and talk about the constitution, most Kenyans really think it's legalist. No. You see, the Constitution 2010 has very many important things. And how did you get here? We got to the Constitution 2010 when Kenya almost banned in 2007-2008. So the constitutional document is a social contract with the Kenyan people. Kenyans went together and said, look, we want to put a document where our aspirations, where everything else that we want is in the document. So let me just give you a quick example. Why do we want Maraga to become president? Or why are we trying to make Maraga president? President Maraga nullified an election in 2017 because it was not done in accordance with the law. Does the constitution provide for that? Yes. There was a previous Chief Justice before David Maraga. Did he have a similar scenario? Yes, there was a Chief Justice who did not nullify an election, despite the fact that, in our view, that particular election was also not conducted in accordance with the law. So there's already a polarity there, that there's one Chief Justice who does not implement or enforce the Constitution as is, and there's one Chief Justice that enforces the Constitution as is. So that is why we really think that President Maraga can enforce and implement the Constitution. That's number one. But the second issue also, you remember Parliament as currently constituted is not in compliance to Article 27.8 in terms of Parliament does not have what you call the two-thirds gender rule. The Constitution requires of Parliament and all elective and appointive bodies to have at least not more than two-thirds gender of either gender. President Maraga gave an advisory to President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament. Currently, we have a female Chief Justice. Has she ever bothered to issue an advisory that this particular parliament is unconstitutional? No, she's actually ducking that particular advisory. So we've already tried to show you that, if Kenyans really want change on the ballot in 2027, if Kenyans really want someone who can implement their aspirations, then David Maraga is that particular person. I'll break it down for you. Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya requires of us to have the face of Kenya. The national values, national aspirations of Kenya shows you, for example, that, every appointment needs to have the face of Kenya. I'm not so sure that is what is happening right now under this particular administration. The Constitution of Kenya requires of you at Article 42 to have a clean and healthy environment. So for us as Greens, we really look forward to clean and healthy environments. All the rivers in this country are polluted, starting with the Athi River, starting with Kisian, starting with, name them. You have Nairobi River, for example. I mean, you remember this particular administration promised us that when they come into office, in 6 months, you'll be swimming in Nairobi River. I do not know if they're swimming in it already. But, so we really want someone, for example, Article 42 of the Constitution about environment and a clean and healthy environment. We want someone who can enforce that. Article 43 of the Constitution, for example, talks about, the right to health, the right to food, the right to... So Kenyans are dying of hunger in places like Turkana, in places like West Pokot, but the Constitution of Kenya gives aspirations in terms of those things need to be delivered to the Kenyan people. Let me just give you another example. Article 55 of the Constitution talks about, the state shall make provisions for young people to have adequate training, but also give them access to employment. Kenya's greatest problem right now is the problem of unemployment. Yet the Constitution of Kenya says the state shall put in places, even affirmative action measures to make sure that young Kenyans have employment. So if the people of Kenya really want someone who can deliver on the Constitution, someone who can give them the aspirations of the Constitution, in our view, it's President David Maraga. And that is the reason why we're requesting Kenyans wherever they are to make sure that if at all it's possible, please register as voters if you've not registered as a voter, and then please vote for David Maraga as President of Kenya, as the sixth President.
I hear you. That is excellent. Now, tell me, it is widely perceived or believed that it is the Gen Zs who decided to, at first during the Maandamanos, to say that when they were trying to see who can be the best president, and then they decided to call for president or candidate or aspirant David Maraga then. But again, looking at the numbers, IEBC is currently conducting the continuous voter registration. The young people are not registering in their big numbers. Polls are not done on Facebook, neither is it done on Twitter and on TikTok. How are they going to send President William Ruto home and make Maraga president if they don't have votes?
So a couple of things. Number one, Fred, I have engaged with the young people, the Gen Zs and the millennials. I really think they don't play by the rule book. They create their own rules. I believe they'll register at the time they want, when they want. I mean, they do things. I have a couple of Gen Zs I know very closely. They do things as they want, when they want. Are they going to register? I am comforted, yes, I believe they'll register. It's not in your ordinary manner of, they believe in creating their own rules, and I think in due time they'll also register to vote. So we are persuaded as a Maraga team that really young people are going to register to vote, and the numbers have just started this week. So let's not really try to critique. I've seen people laugh it off that young people are not registering to vote. They will register to vote. It is about their future. It's their livelihoods. Those of us some of us are old. We have nothing else to lose for this country. Young people have their future ahead of them. Some of them are very well schooled. They're out of job. Some of them have various illnesses. They will vote because they appreciate that the vote makes the entire difference. That's just one. But number two, Fred, let's also remember that some 10 million Kenyans did not vote in the last election. President Ruto and Raila Odinga got a cumulative 14 million votes. 10 million Kenyans did not wake up to vote, up to including 700,000 from them in my own backyard in Nyanza. Now, in terms of the Maraga campaign, those 10 million votes is what we must go for first, in our view, because those people had no reason to appear in the ballot. I mean, Raila was there, Ruto was there. They didn't see a reason to wake up in the morning to go vote for them. Can they wake up to go vote for Maraga? We are persuaded, yes. And so we push them. That's number one. But then number two, let me just tell you something.
Tell me.
Politicians are like vehicles. Their values depreciate. The fact that William Ruto got 7 million votes, the fact that Raila Odinga had about 6 million votes plus, their value has since depreciated. Those who voted for William Ruto believing in his aspirations of the Hustler movement, I'm sure No, most of them. And if you see the opinion polls that have been carried by various research houses, it shows you that their percentage rating. The reason why politicians have to keep each time refreshing or renewing their view is because you lose the value from the word go. I mean, I am a politician. I was elected as a member of parliament. The moment you get elected, people start saying, "Who did tumechagua? This is the one we elected," and so you come out in your true colors, and I think most people are really disillusioned in terms of the government that they thought was going to take care of their welfare. Many people have since changed their minds about it.
Thank you. Tell me about the numbers. We know that Kenyan politics has been ethnic based since the days of Moi, since the days of Kenyatta. Is Maraga having the numbers?
I mean, the numbers are curated. For the longest, Kenya has had the ethnic politics. In fact, if it was about ethnic politics, then Maraga is a non-starter. If at all our campaign platform was on tribe, I mean, the Kisses could be 1.2 million votes registered, and half of them, all over the place. But we are not running a tribal campaign. We are running a value-based campaign, and that is the reason why you've seen the President Maraga has been very careful. I mean, he has said, those who believe in the values of the Constitution, those who believe in the rule of law, those who want the country to function, those who want systems to work, those people are many more than the Luos, many more than Kikuyus, many more than the Kalenjins. There are many Kenyans who want a country that works. There are many Kenyans who want a country that functions. That is a Mkatiba tribe that the Honorable David Maraga is trying to create. Are they many? Yes, they're very many. And they're going to come out in due time. And then again, the other thing that you talked about the Gen Zs, look, you have people who have children of mixed marriages. I mean, the children right now were 15, 20, 25. Some of them they cannot be either Luo, Kikuyu, or Kalenjin. They are from mixed tribes, the number of mixed marriages. So it's very difficult for them to align in terms of particular tribes. You cannot pigeonhole them into the various tribes. So they're going to vote for country. They're going to vote for the Constitution of Kenya. They're going to vote for their aspirations and their future. And they will turn out in large numbers. So yes, indeed, President Maraga has the numbers, both in terms of those who believe in a good country that functions and those who really want to make sure they have a good future for their children.
Thank you. Tell me about the resources. Money. We have seen President Ruto running campaign in the last election, in the run-up to 2027 elections. He had money, taking huge amount of money to churches. And right now we see his deputy, Kithure Kindiki, dishing out huge sums of money. We are seeing President William Ruto giving money in State House, bringing young people in their big numbers. Does presidential aspirant David Kenani Maraga have the financial muscles to take on President William Ruto now that he's in office?
If it was going to be a money campaign again, if it was going to be a dollar versus a dollar, of course, it's a no-brainer that this particular government has primitively accumulated, wealth. So our campaign is not going to be one that we're matching their dollar versus our dollar. One, the President Maraga has requested Kenyans to support his campaign in their small monies, 100 shillings, 1,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings. And he has also said he's not going to participate in the bribing that politicians do, because part of his undertaking and the campaign position is that, the moment a politician pays you, he's already finished his business with you. So if Kenyans really want a country that works, Kenyans must say no to being bribed as voters. Kenyans need to be say no to politicians who buy your vote, because once they bought your vote, look at what they're doing to the country. And this is across, just the presidency, it's across the whole gamut of politicians, from governors to members of parliament to MCAs. So I really think it's time Kenyans stood for what was right. And it's just 2 years. There is how much money you can be bought for. I mean, Fred, if someone gave you 1,000 shillings, really, does that take care of your welfare for 5 years? So Kenyans must really demand and know what it is that they want. So yes, you can be given 10,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings, but you have to look at the cost of education, the cost of healthcare, the cost of development, the cost of water that you'll pay, and those things. So let us get someone who can help make our country function. Let us make someone who can implement for us the Constitution by giving the aspirations of the Constitution. And I'll just highlight for you like 2 or 3. And I can highlight for you various provisions of the Constitution that why implemented, for example, if Kenyans look at Article 79 of the Constitution with regard to, what is the quality of leadership. Right now, you have thugs, you have drug peddlers, people who are known as scammers, the ones leading this country. the Constitution anticipates that at least you should be of good moral standing. You should be doing things in private and in public that bring dignity and honor to the office. If we got that kind of role models in office, I really think that Kenyans then would be going to the extra mile, and it will be a good place. So we do not have money to match dollar for what this current government has, but the few amounts of shillings that we'll get from Kenyans, from our donations, from savings, will be good enough to help us deliver the presidency in 2027.
I hear you, and listening to you speaking, Mheshimiwa, and knowing Maraga, don't you think that Maraga is too good to be president in Kenya?
If you leave this political space to just bad people, that's what has got us here. I think it's time to elect one good person, someone to put in order. You know, the joke that I've listened to these politicians talk about each time is that, you know, Kenya was in the same level of Singapore at independence, or Kenya was amongst the Asian tigers. But look at what Lee Kuan Yew did. He went in for meritocracy. He said, if you merit it, I'll give you an appointment. If you merit it, you have space. Can we say that of this current administration? I do not know. If we want someone to sort out our mess, it must be someone who's strict, someone who is disciplined, someone who has integrity, in the manner of David Maraga. Because Kenya has great leaders. Kenya has great people. Kenya has a great human resource. Look at, why are we not exploiting our blue economy? We have 200 nautical miles of Indian Ocean. The best we're doing for the coast communities is we're just letting them dive. There is a whole 200 nautical miles waiting to be extracted. You need a president who is going to put his foot down to make sure that that particular extraction goes on. Look at Lake Victoria, from where I come from. I mean, Lake Victoria is barely doing 1% of what its potential is. What are we doing? The last I saw, my county, the highest revenue resource for my country was from people's sickness. It means, you know, people have suffered from STDs, people have suffered from malaria. That is a government-owned source revenue, when we can actually make money from Lake Victoria. Look at the amount of tourism potential that you have around Lake Victoria, or amongst, you know, places in the Rift Valley, for example. So you really need a president who can invest, you know, ensure that there's good space. You know, part of the reasons why you do not have foreign direct investment in a country like Kenya is because of the amount of corruption, but also the amount of bottlenecks. You know, they put so many, there's so many gatekeepers in terms of, you know, for investors. So if you find a president who's going to talk about integrity, a president that's going to say no to corruption, there's going to be a lot of foreign direct investment. What does that do for us? It helps us put in more money in the economy. It's going to create jobs for us. It's going to help us exploit our economy in a way that is productive for the Kenyan people. So yes, we need a strict president in the manner of President Maraga. By the way, the reason we support him is because he has no hang-ups. You know, he has no people who, he does not owe people money. You know, the problem of going to an election with this money of peddlers is because then you have to look away. You have to look the other way. When they start coming to do their illicit trade, you have to look away. So we need someone who can just reset, restore, and rebuild country. And that is the reason why Kenya just needs a reset. Kenya just needs a post button, and, you know, we start afresh. And that was the aspiration of Constitution 2010. You know, when Kenyans were fighting in 2007, 2008, it was hoped that the Constitution 2010 was going to give us a reset. It was going to give us a fresh start. That is what the first two presidents and the Constitution costed us. And now it is time to get someone who can just implement the Constitution as it is for 5 years. And then let us see if Kenya of the Constitution 2010 is the Kenya that we have right now. It's going to be a whole lot of a difference. And that is the reason why, for the two reasons I've told you, we have seen President Maraga nullify an election. We've also seen President Maraga give an advisory about the dissolution of parliament. I believe, we in this campaign believe, he is a man who can implement the Constitution of Kenya, and that is why Kenyans need to join him in the Mkatiba movement in a way that we give prosperity to the future, so that our grandchildren can have a country that functions, a country where plenty is found within our borders as per the national anthem. Right now, we are barely scratching. We are basically breadcrumbing. I mean, there's nothing. There's destitution all over the place. People are poor. People can't go to school. There's no school fees. People are hungry. People are necessitous. And there's zero development. And what we get from the government is just, I think, a lot of lip service.
I hear you. Candidate or your presidential aspirant, David Kenani Maraga again, was the head of judiciary, an arm of government, for almost 7 years. He was not able to transform and eradicate corruption from the judiciary. That was just a single arm of government. How much more? And how can we believe that now, given the entire country, he can fix the corruption problem if he could not do it and clean the judiciary of corruption?
Thank you very much. I mean, so first of all, is you must appreciate that the judiciary has regimes. Disciplining judges, for example, is a task of the Judicial Service Commission, where only the Chief Justice is just the head. That's number one. But number two, are there cases where, for example, the Chief Justice dealt with corruption? Yes. I mean, I know he sat in a couple of tribunals where they were investigating corrupt judges. Did he issue that they should be dismissed from office? Yes, he did. So wherever he had a chance, for example, to make decisions with regard to corruption issues in the judiciary, I think he did. Let's give credit to where it's due. Is it difficult to do a few things? When there are systems in place, and the President Maraga believes in the principle of the rule of law. So it's a stickler to law, and it's a stickler to constitutionalism. If the issues are before him and the Judicial Service Commission, I think he did his job. How is that different from the presidency? You see, the presidency is a totally different ballgame, because number one, the presidency implements. You see, if you look at the check and balance that the Constitution gives the President of Kenya and the President of the Judiciary, that check and balance is totally very different. The President of Kenya has executive powers in a way that you cannot compare those executive powers to the powers of the Chief Justice of the Judiciary. So number one, for example, you see, the President, of his own motion, is going to be appointing cabinet secretaries, for example. He's going to be appointing principal secretaries, for example. He has a carte blanche. He has a blank check with regard to who he can bring on board. Can this president, for example, look at the aspirations of the Constitution, Article 79, 73 to 79? I believe he is going to do that. Has he done that before? Yes, he has done that before. So that is the reason why you need to look at Maraga different from Chief Justice and Maraga the President. But as Chief Justice, did he do some incredible things that we ask? Yes, he did. Why? He sat in a judicial process that said, look, this constitution is not,
And yet some people think that David Maraga is somebody's project. Whose project is he?
I think politicians, whenever they cannot understand you, they'll always brand you names. And it's a good thing to be branded, because that means someone is feeling the heat. If they're not feeling the heat, they'll not brand him otherwise. So we have no problem, whoever wants to brand him. But we know for a fact that those of us in this campaign, I sit in this campaign, and I know where we take the decisions from, how the decisions are taken, and I know there is no backhand. And if at all someone wants Maraga to be his project, would it not have been easy to have been bought in 2017? What do you think was on the table in 2017? An election is being nullified. How much money do you think, for example, was a proposal for him to take? And if he didn't take that, do you think he can take money to run for his presidency when he can reset, restore, rebuild Kenya? I doubt. So the naysayers, let them say whatever they want. But 2027 Kenyans, I really request you, on behalf of the Maraga campaign, on behalf of the United Groommen Party, that is the party now, where President Maraga is the flag bearer, co-leader and flag bearer, please, first of all, join United Groommen Party in your large numbers. Support the President Maraga in your numbers. And as Greens, we also pride ourselves as being the only ideological political party in this country. We are running campaigns. That's the thing that I didn't tell you, that we're not running a tribal-based campaign. We do not have any Kisses, Luos, or Luyas, or we do not have kingpins supporting us. We're running on the basis of a green political ideology. We're looking at an ideology that can take the people of Kenya forward. That is why we'd really like to request Kenyans in their numbers to please join us in the United Groommen Party, because it's a party that talks about sustainability. It's talking about the future. You see, Fred, in a country like Kenya, where 27 counties are arid and semi-arid, you then need a political party, you need a government that then is responsive to the needs of the people. Is the United Groommen Party going to create a government that is responsive to the people? Yes, because if you look at the droughts, if you look at the flooding, if you look at everything else, the deforestation that is going across Kenya, what Kenya needs is a political party that run on the basis of a green ideology, with the president who can implement the constitution in the name of David Maraga. And in 5 years, I think we'll have made a turnaround for Kenya.
I'm coming to that. Even as you're winding up, tell me, immediately after coming to power, President William Ruto appointed some team, I don't know whether it was a commission or what, that was led by David Maraga, that went around to try and collect views from police officers in the name of trying to bring reform in the police service. And Maraga accepted the job. The report that he submitted to the president is still gathering dust, there. Why did he agree to work with President William Ruto?
It's not just Maraga who worked with President Ruto. I also worked with President William Ruto. So let's not take it on President Maraga. I think when William Ruto and his team came to office, many Kenyans of goodwill thought we were having a fresh start. I mean, we thought the aspirations, the things that they had sold to us in the manifesto, the hustler narrative, and everything else that they told us, we believed them. I mean, I have to be honest and transparent. I worked for the William Ruto's administration for some 18 months. I mean, you just saw they made a joke of the Mazingira Day yesterday. So the 15 billion tree growing program, for example, is one of the things that we Greens, I went in there as a member of the Green Party, and we thought that, we could actually help Kenya do 30% tree cover. So it was impressive until we discovered that it was just whole rhetoric, whole talk. Back to President Maraga. Of course, invited. As a Chief Justice who's retired, part of your remit is that, you could be called on to tasks, to work for country. And that was a task, go chair the police reform. Did he do it? Yes, he did a good job. Did he make recommendations? Yes, he did. The president did not implement. So do you blame the person who gave the recommendations, or do you blame the person who has not implemented? So I really think let's not castigate or cast aspersions. The fact that we accepted jobs or that President Maraga accepted the jobs does not make us very evil. It's just that we said, look, all that we were sold for is whole rhetoric. It is good for a wise man to change his mind. I think some people who don't change their minds, I do not know who they are, but a wise man, in my opinion, change their mind.
At that time, some people would argue that President William Ruto at that time was looking for legitimacy. Remember, Azimio then were on the streets with sufurias and opened the server demos. And some would argue that President William Ruto kind of lured President Maraga into giving him the legitimacy that he really needed at that time.
Be that as it may, I don't think that President Maraga is a sort that gives people legitimacy. I sit with him oftentimes, and I know how thorough he is with stuff. He consults, he converses with himself, he does a lot of research, and if he thinks it's a good thing to do, he will take that decision. I really know for a fact that when he took off the job of police reforms, it was in his best interest to do the best for country in a way that works. And it is not whether President William Ruto was looking for legitimacy or not. I think if you're called upon to serve country, the moments when people have to put country's interest before their own personal interests, and if you discover at the end of the road that the person dealing with you is being dishonest, there's not much you can do. You can only count your losses, kick the can down the road, and say you hope you can have another chance in the sun.
At 74 years old, you think Maraga still has the energy?
I mean, and there are older people running for president, more than 74. I mean, just in this country. But I really think that what Kenya needs is not age. Kenya needs someone who can reset, restore, rebuild. Why am I supporting President Maraga? He has no qualms. He has no hang-ups. He owes no one an apology. And, I think in the first 100 days of President Maraga's office, he must be very radical. He must be very ruthless. He must give us the country that we deserve. He must recover from this theft. I mean, if you look at all these governors, the governors of the past two elections, all of them should be in jail. You've just seen a few of the governors have been taken to court, how much they've stolen. We need some president who can just wake up and recover all that. That is going to help us plug the debt hole that the country is in. So you need a president who can be very ruthless, in my view, in the first 100 days in the manner of the constitution. A president who is going to recover, a president who is going to jail a few people. It's the only way. Look, you remember when President Kibaki came to office, Kenyans were very happy. Kenyans were arresting the police. Kenyans was, if you thought that you're corrupt, Kenyans would come for you. That's what Kenya needs in 2027. Someone who can help reset, someone who can help rebuild, someone who can help
And you are
restore.
saying that the cartels are listening to you, that they are going to be jailed. You think they are going to give you that space for Maraga to become president?
There are too many good people in this country. They're more than the cartels. It's just that too many good people in this country have been cowed because I mean, when the young people went to the streets, they came out in their numbers. They were fighting for the flag of the country. They were fighting for the constitution of Kenya. And most people dismissed them. There are too many good people in this country. And, we've just left the thieves. I mean, this country is a criminal enterprise. The whole country is been left. The thieves talk loudly. The criminals are so loud, and you might think that there are many. No, there's a silent majority. There's a silent majority of many good Kenyans. And I really think that they were looking for someone to make sure they go to the vote. And I think President Maraga is just going to give them that. And once he becomes president, once he resets the country, once he restores it, Kenyans cannot have their country back. Once Kenyans have their country back, that's now their business in terms of how they improve their livelihoods, how they improve the country. I don't think the bad people can run us out. No, there are too many good people in Kenya. We've given these criminals a field day. And I think 2027, we have a date with them in the ballot.
Do you think that the blood of the Gen Zs were spilled on the streets in vain?
I mean, I really think that it is not fair for any government to do what this administration did to the young people in 2024. And that is the reason why I think when the young people went to President Maraga and requested him to run for office, I really think that was a good thing. And he agreed to run for office, despite the fact that he knew that he had no tribal base, he had no money base, but because he believed in the aspiration of the Kenyan people, he believes in a country that works, he believes in a country that functions. So the blood of the young people that was shed in June 2024 cannot be in vain. And young people, therefore, must go and register as voters. The only challenge we have is you must go register as voters. 10 million of us, plus another 10 million that did not vote in 2022, we must send this administration home.
Can you work with President William Ruto if he reaches out to him to support him for the second term?
On what basis? I mean, we have told you transparently that number one, I worked for President William Ruto. Maraga himself worked for President William Ruto in that particular event. We have seen that the things they sold to us were dishonest. We are saying, and President Maraga said it, he's happy to work with those people who believe in his values. He's running a value-based campaign. What is that value? What underpins that value? Ukatiba, constitutionalism. Anyone who can implement the constitution in its form as it is right now, President Maraga is going to work with him. Has this current administration implemented the constitution? The jury is out there.
Thank you so much. As we are winding up, you have 30 seconds to speak to the young people who support presidential aspirant David Kenani Maraga. Some of them have lost hope, Mheshimiwa. They think that their world is crumbling and coming to an end. Some of them were duped that they were being taken outside the country to go and work. A lot of things are going down in their minds, and that is why most of them were able to take to the streets. You are here telling them that you are having presidential aspirant David Kenani Maraga, who is going to change the country. They are listening to you. Talk to them.
First of all, Fred, like I said before, thank you very much for hosting us on behalf of the United Green Party. Karibu. And also on behalf of the sixth president of Kenya, David Kenani Maraga's campaign. We are honestly very humbled. That's number one. Number two, we'd like to appeal to young people of Kenya and Kenyans at large. I mean, there are Kenyans who voted for this current regime who are disillusioned. So there are many. It's not just young people. Young people form the critical mass because their country is being stolen from them. I would like to assure you that under President Maraga's presidency, one of the things that he has really promised to do is, tackle youth unemployment. I mean, one of the things we really, as Greens, we will prioritize green jobs. It is possible to have the many unemployed young people in the villages, do green-related projects in terms of green reforestation projects, public works projects, in a way that quickly puts money into their pockets. We've also, the President Maraga has also promised to do digital, to improve on the digital economy. We look forward to having TikTok labs, where people can do their creations, digital creations in a way that you make your money in your various counties without really being employed by someone else. So we're also going to improve on manufacturing, value addition, agriculture. Kenya is 70% agricultural for GDP. President Maraga has promised that he's going to improve our own agriculture. We're also going to do value addition to our agricultural products in a way that creates employment for the young people. But again, like I said, he's dealing with corruption head on. He's going to deal with impunity in a way that is going to help us attract foreign direct investment, which is going to give money to our economy. It's going to improve our economies and our livelihood. So Kenyans, we have a chance in the next a couple of days. 662 days to go to the next election. Kenyans, we have a date with destiny on August the 10th, 2027. We'd really like to request you. You have a chance. Let us restore, rebuild, and reset our country by voting in President Kenani Maraga and the United Government Party legislators, MCAs, governors, whatever they shall be on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for coming to the People's Bench and for saying it the way it is. Say hi to presidential aspirant David Kenani Maraga.
We will be in touch with him tomorrow, so yes, I'll say hi to him.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We are looking forward to having him here to speak to the people on the People's Bench when he gets time.
We will get him to the bench.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of our conversation tonight. It has been the People's Bench, where we had the privilege to talk to Mr. Agostinho Neto. He's the party leader of United Green Movement. He's also the coordinator for presidential aspirant David Kenani Maraga, the former Chief Justice. He is the one who coordinates his campaigns. He has said it the way it is, that President Kenani Maraga, aspirant, is the right man for the job, even in the road to 2027. And we gonna see. He has said it the way it is. Until next time, hope to see you. And please remember to subscribe on that YouTube channel so that anytime we have this kind of conversation, you will always see the notification. I've been your host, Fred Ogweno, coming to you from Muthu Silver Springs Hotel. You can scan the QR code for much more. Until next time, bye-bye. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you so much for coming
here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, your viewers.